making tennis grow in the Philippines, and now I'm bringing a whole new audience to tennis all around the world.
Sa mga arenas,
Forget everything the mainstream sports media is trying to spoon-feed you right now. If you turn on the television or scroll through the sanitized, heavily regulated feeds of the major tennis networks, you will hear a very specific, very safe narrative about Eala. They will talk about her heartwarming support. They will show you slow-motion montages of smiling fans waving the Philippine flag in the stands. They will frame this entire phenomenon as a feel-good Cinderella story of a young girl achieving her dreams while her countrymen cheer her on. It is a beautiful, digestible narrative designed to sell detergent and family-friendly broadcast packages. It is also a complete, utter, and fundamental misunderstanding of what is actually happening. We are not looking at a cute sports story. We are witnessing the weaponization of a global diaspora. We are watching the real-time execution of a decentralized, international hostile takeover of the professional tennis landscape. The Filipino fanbase is not just a group of spectators, they are a highly mobilized, fiercely loyal, and economically devastating corporate entity, and Eala is the CEO who just took this company public on the global exchange. In the cutthroat, hyper-capitalist ecosystem of professional sports, attention is the only currency that matters, and Eala has cornered the market. She has monopolized the attention of over 110 million people domestically, plus millions more scattered across every major economic hub on the planet. This is not fan support. This is raw, unfiltered geopolitical leverage. To understand the sheer magnitude of the advantage Eala possesses, you have to understand the brutal economics of home court advantage in tennis. For an American player like Coco Gauff, the home court advantage is geographically locked. She gets the massive corporate backing and the screaming crowds in New York at the US Open, or in California at Indian Wells. But the moment she steps onto a court in the Middle East, or Eastern Europe, or Asia, she is just another player. She is operating in neutral or hostile territory. Eala, on the other hand, has entirely shattered the geographic limitations of the sport. Because of the massive, sprawling network of overseas Filipino workers and the deeply rooted Filipino diaspora, Eala does not play away matches, ever. It does not matter if she is playing a grueling, low-level challenger event in the middle of nowhere, or stepping onto the pristine hardcourts of Dubai, Melbourne, or Indian Wells. The moment she arrives, the local Filipino community mobilizes with the military precision of a highly trained infantry unit. They buy out the stadiums. They hijack the acoustic environment. They turn every single venue into a localized version of Manila. This is an unprecedented logistical and psychological phenomenon that the old guard of the WTA has absolutely no idea how to combat.
Making tennis grow in the Philippines, and now I'm bringing a whole new audience to tennis all around the world.
sa mga arenas,
Listen closely to what she is saying there. She is not talking about just winning tennis matches. She is talking about market expansion. I'm bringing a whole new audience to tennis all around the world. That is not the language of a naive 20-year-old athlete. That is the language of a visionary corporate executive who understands her total addressable market. Tennis, for decades, has been an exclusionary country club sport heavily reliant on legacy European and American wealth. It has struggled desperately to penetrate new demographics and secure a younger, highly engaged audience. Eala has single-handedly cracked the code. She is taking a sport historically reserved for the elite and democratizing it for an entire nation that historically poured all of its athletic fanaticism into boxing and basketball. She is not just playing the game, she is shifting the global macroeconomic tectonic plates of the sport's broadcast and sponsorship models. When tournament directors look at Eala, they do not just see a top 32 player, they see a guaranteed sellout crowd on a Tuesday afternoon. They see a massive spike in localized merchandise sales. They see food and beverage revenues skyrocketing because an entire community has treated her first-round match as a massive, cultural tailgating event. She is a walking, breathing stimulus package for every single tournament she enters. And in the boardroom, that kind of economic reliability translates to infinite leverage. But let us pivot from the boardroom to the absolute psychological warfare taking place on the court. Imagine for a second being the opponent drawn against Eala. You are a highly ranked European or American player. You have spent your entire life training in sterile, quiet academies where etiquette and silence are demanded. You fly to Abu Dhabi, or you fly to the California desert expecting a standard polite tennis match with polite golf claps. You walk out of the tunnel, and you are immediately hit by a wall of sound that vibrates your central nervous system. You realize with a sinking feeling in your stomach that you are not playing a one-on-one sport anymore. You are playing against an entire sovereign nation. The acoustic violence of a Filipino crowd is legendary. It is relentless, it is deeply emotional, and it is specifically designed to isolate and psychologically break the opponent. Every time Eala hits a routine forehand, The crowd erupts like she just won a Grand Slam title. Every time the opponent double faults, there is a deafening, suffocating roar of approval. It creates a massive, compounding psychological debt. The opponent begins to feel like the umpire is against them. The stadium is against them. The entire universe is against them. The pressure becomes a physical weight. It tightens the backswing. It elevates the heart rate. It forces the brain into a state of panic, triggering the fight-or-flight response in a sport that requires cold, calculating, surgical precision. The opponent stops playing the geometry of the court and starts fighting the environment, which is the exact moment the match is lost.
Filipinos is we have such a strong sense of community, and I feel like when one of us does well or one of us is succeeding, we all have that.
This is the blood oath. This is the shared sense of identity that creates an impenetrable psychological shield around Eala. When she talks about the shared sense of pride, she is describing a decentralized hive mind. The Filipino culture places an immense, almost religious premium on communal triumph. When Manny Pacquiao fought, crime rates in the Philippines literally dropped to zero because the entire country was glued to the television. Eala is inheriting that exact same cultural infrastructure. She is becoming the central node of a massive global network of pride and representation. And here is the truly terrifying part for the rest of the WTA Tour. Eala does not crumble under this pressure. Most athletes, if you put the hopes and dreams of 110 million desperate, passionate people on their shoulders, would shatter into a million pieces. The sheer gravitational force of those expectations would paralyze them. But Eala was built in the Rafa Nadal Academy. She was engineered in an environment that teaches you that suffering is not a consequence of competition, but the very mechanism of victory. She consumes that pressure. She metabolizes the expectations of her nation and converts it into pure lethal kinetic energy on the baseline. The heavier the burden, the more ruthlessly she executes. She draws power from the crowd, not as a distraction, but as a battery pack that allows her to outgrind, outsuffer, and outlast opponents who are only playing for a paycheck. Let us dive deeper into the brand equity and the absolute genius of her public relations strategy. In the modern era of sports, athletes are completely obsessed with building a highly curated, often arrogant, and deeply narcissistic personal brand. They want to be seen as untouchable fashion icons or untouchable elite superstars. Eala has taken the exact opposite approach, and it is a masterclass in consumer psychology and brand loyalty. She projects absolute, unwavering humility. She is deferential. She speaks softly about her family, her roots, and her country. And this humility is the ultimate Trojan horse. It creates a deeply intimate, parasocial relationship with her fan base. They do not just admire her, they feel protective of her. They view her as their daughter, their sister, their own flesh and blood representing them on the hostile global stage. This is a level of consumer trust that massive corporations spend billions of dollars trying to manufacture, and they almost always fail. Eala has it naturally, and it makes her the most valuable marketing asset in Southeast Asia.
At kababaang loob.
She's humble and she works hard. Yes. That's why we like her, because she's the face of the Philippines. Eala plays.
Listen to the raw, unpolished truth from the ground level. She's humble and she works hard. That's why we like her. This is the core thesis of the Filipino working-class ethos. The diaspora is built on sacrifice. It is built on people leaving their families, traveling to foreign countries, working incredibly demanding jobs in hospitals, on cruise ships, in construction, and in domestic care, all to send remittances back home. When they look at Eala, they do not just see a tennis player hitting a forehand. They see a mirror. They see their own grueling work ethic, their own sacrifices, and their own relentless pursuit of a better life projected onto the biggest, brightest stages in the world. She is the ultimate validation of the Filipino struggle. When she wins, it validates their sacrifice. That is why they show up. That is why they buy the tickets. They are not consuming entertainment. They are participating in a massive communal ritual of self-affirmation. And this creates an unshakable foundation of support. If an American player loses 3 matches in a row, the media turns on them, the fans mock them on Twitter, and the sponsors start looking for the exit clause in their contracts. If Eala loses a match, her community rallies even harder. They form a protective digital and physical phalanx around her. The brand equity is bulletproof. It is crash-proof. It is an appreciating asset in a market characterized by extreme volatility.
The Philippines, Eala plays. We all get together and we all watch her support her as a group of people.
Susunod na harap sa hamon si Eala.
We all get together and we all watch her. This is the operationalization of the tribal collective. In the West, sports consumption is increasingly isolated. A guy sits on his couch, looks at his phone, and maybe watches a match alone. The Filipino model is a communal event. It is barangay halls setting up projectors. It is massive watch parties in Dubai apartments. It is families huddled around a single smartphone in a province in Mindanao. This creates an algorithmic supernova on the internet. Every time Eala plays, the Filipino internet mobilizes to dominate the trending topics on Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. They flood the comment sections of the WTA, the ATP, and the major broadcasters. They manipulate the digital algorithm through sheer brute force of numbers, forcing the global media apparatus to cover her, to talk about her, and to prioritize her matches. They have effectively built a self-sustaining, decentralized marketing agency that works for Eala 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, completely for free. This is advanced algorithmic warfare. The mainstream tennis establishment, run by aging executives who still think television ratings from 1995 matter, are completely blind to how Eala and her community have hijacked the modern attention economy. As she prepares for her campaign at Indian Wells, the stakes are astronomically high. This is not just about beating Diana Yastremska in the second round. This is about making a definitive, violent statement of arrival in the heart of the American corporate sports machine. Indian Wells is often called the fifth Grand Slam. It is where the billionaires, the tech executives, and the global luxury brand directors congregate. When Eala steps onto that court, accompanied by the deafening roar of the Filipino diaspora who have driven in from Los Angeles, San Diego, and the Bay Area, she is putting on a showcase for the boardroom. She is demonstrating that she is not a regional curiosity, but a massive, unstoppable, global economic force. She is forcing the tennis elite to recognize that the balance of power is shifting. The legacy markets are stagnating, and the future of the sport's growth lies entirely in the hyper-engaged, wildly passionate demographics of Southeast Asia. Her opponent, Yastremska, is walking into a trap she cannot possibly comprehend. Yastremska relies on explosive power and aggressive baseline striking. But power requires a calm mind and a steady central nervous system. How do you maintain a calm mind when the very air inside the stadium feels like it is vibrating with hostile intent? How do you focus on the toss of your serve when thousands of people are actively praying for you to double fault, and they are doing it at a decibel level that makes the ground shake? You cannot. The psychological breakdown is inevitable. Eala simply has to stay solid. She has to weather the initial storm, construct her points with cold, calculated precision, and let the sheer weight of the crowd slowly crush the fight out of the Ukrainian. This is the ultimate synergy of mind, body, and community. Eala is not fighting alone. She has an army at her back, a corporate blueprint in her head, and the ruthless execution of an apex predator. The mainstream media will continue to peddle their soft, feel-good narratives. They will continue to call the fans passionate and colorful. Let them. While they are busy writing fairy tales, Eala and the global Filipino diaspora are quietly executing the most brilliant, comprehensive, and unstoppable hostile takeover the sport of tennis has ever seen. They are rewriting the rules of engagement, monopolizing the attention economy, and building a financial and cultural empire that will dominate the landscape for the next decade. The boardroom is officially open, the contract is on the table, and Eala is holding all the leverage. You are either investing in this absolute juggernaut right now, or you are going to be completely crushed by the momentum of 100 million people marching in unison toward inevitable global domination. The baseline is her territory. The crowd is her weapon. The future is her monopoly. Stand aside, or get run over.